Hey, what's going on, Fantasy Heads? This is Mitchell with FF Real Talk, and we're now through 4 weeks of the regular season. And this past weekend was just as eventful as all the others, and had a Monday night game that was beyond crazy in its ending. Seattle getting another break like they've often got from the referees, especially in the last few years. If you saw that replacement refs game a few years back, and it had a fantasy implication that was personal with me because that blown call literally was the result of a win for me in fantasy football as I was playing against an owner who had Russell Wilson. Had the play gone the way it went, Russell Wilson would have had to go into hurry up mode and made more passes that would have assuredly had me lose the game. And I end up beating somebody by 1.5 points. Again, had the play gone the way it was supposed to, Russell Wilson would have completed more passes, possibly a touchdown, and I would have lost that game. I edged it out by 1.5 points. That's how crazy the NFL is, and obviously being that this works conversely with the NFL, how fantasy football can be. So we're going on to week 5, but before we do that, I got an announcement to make. As of next week, all of my free agent ad videos that I usually do today, which is Tuesday, are going to be done on Mondays from now on. So that's good news for the fact that you'll have now a full day and some change to be able to see this video and be able to prepare for who you want to add. And I'll have gotten it out the way before, late Tuesday night. But the bad news is whatever game that happens on Monday night, whoever may or may not be an addition to possibly on that list obviously won't be mentioned. So it'll be only Thursday night / Sunday games of waiver editions I'll be doing. But my work schedule's changing, won't be able to do it on Tuesday evenings anymore. But without further ado, we're going to go into who to add for week 5. And number 1 was mentioned at least in the first 2 weeks. I'm not sure if I mentioned him last week or not, but Ronnie Hillman. As I said it before, this will be the last time I say it too. In my opinion, Hillman is the better back in Denver and much better than C.J. Anderson. I said it already. I said this in week 1. Ronnie Hillman was the C.J. Anderson before C.J. Anderson was him. He had took over the job last year, and before he got hurt, he was looking amazing and was getting all the accolades that C.J. Anderson ended up getting. And what do we really know about C.J. Anderson? He had a section of the year last year where he did good in a system that we saw any starting running back who had the mantle last year do well, because it was immediate shift in Peyton's, it was a drastic and abrupt shift rather in Peyton's ability to throw, and the teams couldn't adjust to the running games taking over, but they were keyed in for it this year. And when they key in for it, talent is going to show. And C.J. Anderson hasn't been able to do anything with it. The opportunities Hillman's had, it hadn't been great, but it's been better than Anderson. And this thing isn't going to change. Peyton's, I don't care how many points he's got in a couple weeks, to me, he's not looking very good. So they're going to have to pick somebody to go forward with, and I think if not even this week, Hillman will be starting. So if he's out there in your leagues and you're a C.J. Anderson owner, you should have had him already. But his standalone value is still pretty strong. If he's out there in your league, he needs to be scooped up this week without talking about it anymore. Number 2, and this week, these rankings, just to let you know, aren't in any particular order. I didn't even do it per what I think you should do, but all of these guys are pretty good grabs. Number 2 of mine will be Leonard Hankerson. This one's simple. In a high-powered offense that's rivaling that of the Green Bay Packers, the New England Patriots, and the Arizona Cardinals, someone has to take the second role in receiver in Atlanta who is very high powered. They're throwing a lot, and that role is going to Hankerson now, and he's done it admirably. Roddy White is getting basically phased out. This past weekend, Hankerson had 6 catches on 8 targets for 103 yards and a touchdown, and I expect more and more of this to happen. This offense isn't going to change. This team is undefeated, and they're all systems going. They got to throw it to somebody else besides besides Julio. So Hankerson looks like he's on, and it's as simple as that. He needs to be picked up. Thomas Rawls. Like last weekend, I feel Lynch is at the decline of his as I won't say his career, but at the declining point of basically his career. But it's not in respect to his talent; it's in respect to his body holding up. Rawls didn't have this much going, and a lot of people were expecting much more from him because this game is predicated, the Seattle team's game is predicated on the run game. But none of Seattle's offense was really, really clicking yesterday. The defense was saving it, which has been apparent since Cam Chancellor came back. But he definitely got the workload similar to that of the week before. It remains to be seen if how Lynch is going to be. He's getting an MRI or whatever, and I wouldn't love either guy against the Seattle defense this upcoming week. But whoever starts in this system going forward, depending on the injury or whatever, has value. So as long as Lynch is out, whatever amount of time that is, whenever it is, Rawls has value. And when you have an injury like that with a hamstring that's bothering you, it's going to be nagging for the rest of the year. All Lynch owners need to have, sort of like the C.J. Anderson situation, all Lynch owners need to have Rawls. And Rawls also has standalone value. Number 4, Gary Barnidge. The year of the tight end continues. And for the second week in a row, and basically an unknown player comes out and emerges, and he's in the top 3 in points in tight ends for the second week in a row. Apparently, Josh McCown likes him, and the Browns need someone to step up. And looks like they have a consistent source, and he's commanded 21 targets this year thus far. And for all of those people that were caught off guard, losing Jordan Reed this week, he's going to be questionable. Losing Eric Ebron the other day, last night rather, is questionable. Austin Seferian-Jenkins and all these tight ends is out. This is a guy you want to target. It looks like it's going to be somebody they're going to be using. The Browns need somebody. And it looks like this is going to be a weapon of theirs. Which leads to number 5, Duke Johnson Jr. This was a big target in a lot of drafts. A lot of people didn't know him that much. But there's one thing that stands out. 15 catches in the past 2 weeks. And he's slowly becoming the number 1 target in that offense alongside with Barnidge. This makes him a PPR must-own. But he has standalone value, at least in the flex position. And the way I see it, before it's all said and done, Isaiah Crowell is going to be phased out, and he's going to become a 3-down back, more so than any other that's on the team right now. This needs to be something anyone needs to be adding, and he's given a great boost of energy, and youth is always a contributor to that. Duke Johnson Jr. does not need to be on anyone's waivers after this week, and because they're going to keep riding him, and I believe that role is going to continue to grow, so grab him. Number 6, Allen Hurns. Allen Robinson, looks like we took the wrong Allen this year in the drafts, right? I wouldn't say that, but I will say this. Allen Hurns is the one that's turning it on, and it's looking like Blake Bortles is using him as his number 1 target for 2 straight weeks with a touchdown. You can't ignore that. But we've seen this before. We saw it last year, actually. When everybody was on Marquise Lee and they thought that was going to be the breakout guy, Allen Hurns had the first few weeks with the big production. He's more of a home run threat than anything. But let's face it, when you're 1-3 in a league, or if you're 0-4 in a league, home run plays from lotto picks that you pull off the waiver wire are often what get you those unexpected wins that you will need to help you move up. So this is a guy that, especially deeper leagues, but even in some standard ones, take a chance and see what happens, because it looks like this offense is slightly emerging. Number 7, Ted Ginn Jr. I don't like Ted Ginn Jr. I've never liked Ted Ginn Jr. As far as I'm concerned, I liken him to Josh Cribbs and Devin Hester with a little more above team special teams value. He's got a little more isolated value from just a special teams player. He has 3 touchdowns this year and had 8. And last week he had 8 targets, which is quite rare for a player like him. And more than anything, and this is the only reason he's on this list for me, because like I said, I don't like him. Cam's got to throw to somebody. Kelvin Benjamin out in the preseason. Devin Funches, a guy that obviously is now becoming a bad call on me because I was one of the people that was hyping him in the preseason, isn't doing it. He may come on later, but whatever. And Greg Olsen is having not so great of a season. He has moments, but then he's not doing what he's supposed to do. Ted Ginn is getting a little work. Cam's got to throw to somebody. And Jonathan Stewart isn't doing anything either. Cam's got to throw to somebody. And if it's going to be Ted Ginn, it's going to be him maybe. So pick him up, see what happens. Cam in this Panthers team is looking really strong. So I expect this to be at least some trustworthy value, whether I like him or not. So give him a look. Kamar Aiken. This one right here all comes down to Steve Smith's health. You saw when he went down in the other game, Aiken went 5 for 77 with a touchdown, and with Brashad Perriman with no time frame, Aiken is poised for acquiring a default huge role in the Ravens offense. You have to see that the other night they were looking just as bad as they had been looking in previous weeks, but to get out that win causes a boost of momentum. So I could definitely see the Flacco-Aiken connection growing. Not necessarily a full-blown gotta-have pick, but definitely someone to keep your eye on. Number 9. This here is a sleeper, and I got to give a shout out to one of my friends on Twitter. What's up, Linda? We were talking about this the other day. This is a sleeper guy. This weekend, the Titans were on a bye. But Antonio Andrews, a lot of people weren't paying attention because a lot of people do their waiver ads based on what the guy you get can do the upcoming week. And with the Titans being on waivers, nobody picked this guy up. Antonio Andrews on the sneak supplanted Bishop Sankey in the run game for the Titans the other day. He scored a touchdown in week 3, and we all know Sankey isn't a good running back. And with the Titans being off, he was, like I said, he virtually wasn't added. And for all deeper leagues and some who want to take a shot, like I say, those that were down, you might as well give it a shot because Mariota can't do it alone with Kendall Wright and his other targets. Cannot do it alone. Running backs got to get going. I don't think Sankey has it as a professional running back. Give Antonio Andrews a look. He's a sleeper guy, and no one was thinking about him because he had to bye. So, like I say, I want to give a shout out to my friend Linda for that one, and because we were talking about it, and that was a real sneaky call on her part. Number 10, Charles Sims. As the weeks turn, we're seeing more and more out of Sims than what we was expecting to see last year. He had that injury last year that kept him out the bulk of the fantasy season. And now that he's back, we all knew, anybody who knew him knew that he was a pass catcher, and he's showing just that. 2 straight weeks with a receiving touchdown. And with the wildly inconsistent play of Doug Martin, who's still penciled in as a starter, it doesn't give you a lot of confidence that Charles Sims is going to take over. But he's definitely the passing down back that they want. And with Doug Martin being so iffy, you're seeing Sims' role increase some. You don't want him necessarily in a standard league, but PPR leagues, possibly good flex option, especially in these bye weeks where things are lean out there. He's widely available, so he's somebody you might want to take a look at because he's talented and he definitely can catch the ball. So that's it with the this week's 10 list. As we can see, we're now through a quarter of the regular season for the NFL and the fantasy season. We're now at that point where, like I say, at about week 4 is when you know when you should possibly drop or add players, this, that, or the other that you have on the fence. I may or may not do a video. Last year I did a video about 5 running backs and 5 receivers that you can cut that you drafted. I may or may not do a video about that next week after week 5. We'll see. But until then, any questions you have, ask me on Twitter. And like I said last week, ask me before 12 a.m. Sunday, which is going to be the best time that I can answer your questions. If you're asking me an hour before kickoff, I'm probably not going to see it. Try to ask before the end of Saturday night. So good luck to you in week 5, and I hope your leagues are going well so far. We'll see you next time. Take care.